I am becoming more and more convinced that there's some unwritten law in this country preventing African people from coming into access to great wealth. Trinidad and Tobago has a long history of money laundering and drug trafficking. But personally, I have never heard of any of those major drug lords or money launderers throughout history, going back to the 1980s to now. We had Dole Chedi, we had Naim Naya, and a whole host of unnamed Syrian drug lords, according to the various documents that were released, Scott Drug Report, Scotland Yard Report, and the research of Dr. Darius Figueroa. But here, one black man of simple means, working class background, has less than $100 million in his possession, and he's raided 5 times. And also, I have never heard a sitting prime minister refer to any of those major drug lords or money launderers in the past as a major threat to national security. So you telling me that with all the drug trafficking and money laundering and major criminal gangs and that report of the top big fish businessmen who were engaged in human trafficking, you're going to tell me they cannot be singled out or identified by a sitting prime minister as a threat to national security, but the DSS man is? Something's really wrong with that picture. Look at it. And for those of us who are so trapped and jailed mentally by the politics, think. UNC government was in office. They passed the anti-gang legislation bill in the House. The Attorney General, then under UNC, described the typical gang member as someone who wears his shirt in a sitting kind of way, pants low down on his waist, cap twisted to the side, and tries to get tickets to go to concerts of certain foreign artists. That's clearly profiling black youth. So they totally ignore all those other gangsters and real-life criminal gangs, again, drug traffickers and money launderers, especially since former Minister of National Security Martin Joseph on October 30th, 2005 said a group of prominent businessmen in Port of Spain came to him with a list of names that they felt should be murdered as a solution to crime. You're going to tell me those were not gang members or gangsters, but the black youth with his pants low down on the waist is? Okay. UNC were voted out. PNM came in, same role, Attorney General, this time in talking about the Explain Your Wealth bill. They didn't say anything about multi-million-dollar buildings and yachts and islands and major tracts of land. But the Explain Your Wealth that they used as an example in the parliament was gold chains and expensive shoes. You see, this narrative of the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer is no longer just a consequence of capitalism, but it seems to be a real live political doctrine and policy. And added to that, when you look at Trinidad and Tobago society and the failure for the delivery of justice, you see, justice does not have moods. It is consistent. Justice doesn't have seasons. It is constant. And justice doesn't have a delay on time. It must be swift and instant. But the justice that we call for is based on emotions. So only when we're angry we call for justice, but all of that other justice that the poor, working class, in particular African people suffer at the hands of is left unaddressed. And from time to time, there's the tricky bamboozling of the voting electorate through a vote bank where we deliver votes, and then they take those opportunities that come with the power and authority of being in political office and hand it over to the so-called 1%. Think about this for a minute. Minimum wage in Trinidad and Tobago is approximately $15 an hour. $15 an hour at 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, will give you something like $32,000 in a year. Average rent is about $2,000. You subtract $2,000 from the yearly earnings, you're left with $8,000 to survive on for the rest of the year. You divide $8,000 by 12 months in a year, you get 666. I knew the devil was in the details somewhere. But as bad as that is, the political policy seems to be to make it worse. Now, so many poor people in this country earn $32,000 a year, and some of them are working for people who earn $32,000 a day. But if the current trends continue, then that $32,000 per year would be a little less, and the $32,000 a day would be a little more. And then on top of those, you have those who work for $32,000 an hour. And again, the gap is widening between the rich and the poor. So coming back to this raid on the brother hospitalized, I am saying that if we as a nation were to pay equal attention to the real major drug lords, human traffickers, and money launderers in the same way that the state is going after DSS, and if you were to just do 5 raids on each of the real big fish drug lords, money traffickers, and human traffickers, if you were to just give a little bit of equal policing or national security attention to some of them, then we just might be able to solve our crime problems overnight. That is my point of view. But God is the best knower.